for a few different reasons. And this is a video with Trump at the national. I'm going to play the entire beginning, actually, if we can.
With former President Donald Trump.
And I'm going to play this video for a little bit. I'm going to talk over it as I'm playing it, because I want you to pay attention to what's going on here. So this is the National Association for Black Journalists. And is it shared on the screen? Hold on. Okay. So when you look at the screen, what's the first thing that stands out to you? I see 3 Black women. The National Association of Black Journalists. If y'all can't tell me that there's not a push for empowerment for Black women at the expense of Black men, then I don't know what that is. And before people just say, oh, it just so, oh, there can't be 3 Black women on stage. If there was 3 Black men on stage in an organization that was men and women, people would be looking at it and screaming, DEI, DEI. We need women on stage. We need maybe at least 2 women on stage for every Black man that's on stage. Why are there no men on this stage? Why did no man suggest what would be clearly obvious if there was only men on stage? Hey, we should have a woman on stage. Why are these questions not being raised? Why is this just okay? Why are Black men or men in general just sitting back and allowing women to just take over? And I'm not even going to say, I shouldn't even say the women to take over, because I still put all the blame on men. Let me be very clear. Let me take that back, that statement back, allowing them to take over. But why are you forcing women? Why are you forcing this women's empowerment in an organization that has Black men and Black women? You're interviewing the president. Can't we have diversity of thought, diversity of perspective? Isn't that the whole reason for DEI? So wouldn't it make sense to have a man on stage who's able to ask Donald Trump some questions as well? Let's continue.
This discussion continues a decades-long tradition during election years of inviting journalists to discuss the policies and their impact with the candidates who are running for president, and the impact of those policies, especially in Black communities. Former Presidents George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton have attended the NABJ conventions either as presidents or as presidential candidates in past years. NABJ is currently in conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris's team to schedule a Q&A either in person or virtually in September. As we use opportunities like these, both to inform our reporting, but also to help voters understand the choice.
Okay, so we understand the point. I want to get to where Trump sat down.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe Black district attorneys. You've attacked Black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking Black supporters to vote for you, why should Black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so.
And I got to stop it right there, because Moses said it first. Is this a question? Who brings somebody? First off, y'all invited him there, and he's going to get into all this. And this is why, sometimes with a guy like Trump, you should just sit back and let him talk. You should sit back and let him talk. For all these Democrats, these news stations that we've been watching, for the last few years, we've been clearly, it's been obvious that Biden didn't have the cognitive ability to put sentences together, to put a speech together. And all you heard was the Joy Reids of the world and everybody else on these liberal platforms saying that, well, Trump could barely, speak. He's lost a step. If we think that Trump has lost a step, then maybe we should start celebrating him a little bit more for where he was 4 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Because when you hear his response, it is as sharp of a response that you could have if you were prepped on exactly what question she was going to ask. Exactly if you knew how she was going to come into this interview with the animosity and hatred or whatever she has in her that is clearly coming off when she's inviting somebody to sit with her, but then phrases her first question like that. Let me run it back a couple seconds just so y'all can feel it out. And then just watch Donald Trump respond. This is why right here. See, a lot of people don't realize. This is why a lot of young black men, and black men in particular, and men in particular, are leaving the Democratic Party. This is why people find Donald Trump appealing. What we're about to witness right now.
And racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you?
You don't even say, hello, how are you? You can hear from the jump. First off, let's be clear. Donald Trump is fine with playing away games. I don't see your favorite Democrat nominee or this person. I don't see Kamala, or you didn't see Biden going to away games and answering questions, telling them that you don't have to script this out. What did Biden do to the news? Remember when Biden did the interview where the people came out and said, hey, you had to choose from these questions and then let them know which questions you were going to ask ahead of time? I don't see the other side being able to do what a RFK does and just give a speech and say what's on your mind without having to read from a teleprompter. RFK sits down with the Breakfast Club, sat down with My Expert Opinion with Matt Hoffa. RFK sits down with whoever he can sit down with. Trump sits down with a lot of people, maybe not as much as RFK, but these two candidates are perfectly fine with taking away games. They're perfectly fine with attending away games and being themselves. And you find out a lot about yourself. See, in sports, anybody can play the home games when the team's rooting for you. But you find out what dogs you got on your team. You find out who people really are when everybody in the building is cheering against you. When the odds are not in your favor. When you don't have the home crowd to where anything you say to a MAGA crowd is going to laugh. My man came in and commanded the crowd instantly, commanded the respect of the crowd, commanded maybe her respect in some ways as well. But listen to his first response. He already has the crowd in his corner. And that's how, this is why people, it's like people don't realize, y'all don't realize. And it's because men are not being honest with y'all. I told y'all on the last show, if you're sitting here watching this show with your man, or if you go back home and show them this part, and they tell you that they dislike Donald Trump and I hate him, he's so mean, he's such an asshole, he's such a racist, they're lying. There's a part of them that likes Donald Trump. There's a part of them that totally understands and feels how he responds in these type of situations. And for anybody to call him anything other than sharp, you're lying. She tried to put him on a spot in a bad way, and listen, he instantly takes over the crowd. This is why he's in the position. So why all these people, I got a text from somebody who's not even into politics or something. They said Donald Trump's a fool. Like when people say stuff like that, it's just like, it's so like, it shows you, like, I honestly, it shows your lack of intelligence. He's a fool. You can say he's a whole bunch of other stuff, but to say he's a fool, to question his cognitive ability, I don't understand it. To me, it just does a disservice. It's delusion, but people keep doing it and aren't going to realize that people are going to keep creeping out the Democratic door into the other side.
After you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and you know, and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money, they were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that, and let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense, and then you said you can't do it with Zoom. Well, you know, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something
Mr.
was
President,
wrong.
I would love
I think
if
it's
you
a
can answer the
very
question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe that
answered
black
the
voters
question.
should trust you with another
I
4
have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President
That's
Johnson,
my
who signed the
answer.
Voting Rights
And
Act.
for you to start
Yo. I don't care what y'all say. If y'all don't appreciate what he just did right then and there, 22K in the building. If you don't appreciate what he just did right there, you're lying to yourself as a man. And you may be lying to yourself as a woman as well. He just handled himself perfectly, won over the entire audience. And you listen to her response, because you got to listen to what people say. Listen to what people say. Right here, hold on, and I see y'all going back and forth in the chat. we got a anti-Trumper. We got a. I see what's going on in the chat. I may not be able to get to it for a sec. Hold on.
it's a very nasty question.
Listen,
I have answered the question.
Listen to what he said. Listen to when he says that he's been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. Listen to her response. She brings up a president. I want y'all to listen to this.
I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
She said better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act. She's referring to Lyndon B. Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act and who signed all of the social programs that we see crippling the black community right now, the welfare state. But we're going to get into that in a little bit when we go over to Project 2025. So here he's saying that he's been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln, and her response is better than Lyndon B. Johnson. She's not, I'm going to keep it real with you. She doesn't read a lot. She either doesn't read a lot, she's not aware of our history, the black community that she's talking about. She's not a true journalist, because and that's the problem. And I think Moses just identified it in the chat right earlier. He said that hold on. I think Moses said that I was under the impression journalists are impartial. This is the problem when you do not have impartial journalism, because you as a journalist start to do research, and because you're so objective, you can't even evaluate the information correctly. As a black woman, does she know that before Lyndon B. Johnson, the person that she just celebrated and tried to elevate over Trump, since before he came into office and the social programs that he put together with the Voting Rights Act, but that's what they do. They just put one good thing in there and say like, oh, he passed the right for you to vote, and then look at all the social programs, but don't look at how that destroys the black family, how that destroys the black community. Before Lyndon B. Johnson, the president that she just celebrated, black women were more likely to get married than white women. Let me say that again. Before Lyndon B. Johnson, look up the stats. Black women were more likely to get married than white women. But because you have these super duper liberals and people that just choose sides, like fanatics, like fans of sports teams, they're not able to process information with enough objectivity that gives them a return, basically, that is more truthful or truthful rather than something that just agrees with how they already want to think. Think about that. Lyndon B. Johnson and his programs have destroyed the black community, destroyed them. They incentivize you to not get married. They say that, oh, we'll help you with this housing, we'll help you with these food stamps, but just don't have a nigga living in your crib. You can't have a man in your crib. No, you can't have a partner. And like I said, we're going to get into that with Project 2025 when we dive into that. But let's keep going a little bit and let's keep hearing Trump out a little bit. But if you do, this was masterful how he answered this.
To start off a question and answer for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to.
Yeah. Fellas, take notes.
Other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris.
All right, so we already looked at that DEI part. Do we need to look at the DEI part again? We'll look at it again.
Who was the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket as a DEI.
Yo, I didn't realize that was the second question to this. Now I'm even more impressed, bro. Trump is sharp, bruh.
I hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition.
the word.
Hold on. I just saw something in the chat. Hold on. Yo, Danny, I'm sorry, but this is the first thing that I saw. So Danny wrote, "You can talk about whatever you want. I hope you'll get him. I'll feel sorry when you're all put in shackles, though." This is what extremism has created. Danny, just so you're aware, I'm not voting for Trump. I'm a RFK Jr. guy. But that doesn't mean that I can't recognize certain things in other candidates that I like. That doesn't mean that I can't call a spade a spade. I'm not rooting for politicians. If you're rooting for a politician, if you're rooting for a political party, let me say that, you have definitely already lost. You've already failed. Congratulations. You're part of the reason why we're in the position that we're in now with two candidates that most of us say that we don't like. Two candidates that are causing what may become the most divisive election in our history. This is why, but it's because of comments like you, Danny. It's because you're saying that if Trump gets in office, we're going to be in shackles. Danny, just to let you know, he's already been president. We weren't in shackles. Matter of fact, before the pandemic, a lot of people would agree that life was kind of good. Inflation was down. More black people were owning homes. There was a great unemployment rate. Not a lot of unemployed people. So when you come with these extreme claims, like you're going to be put in shackles, come on now. And then look at what Danny wrote when I said something about RFK, the brain worm. You have to understand. So for all the people that are looking at this, and Danny may be joking around, but for all the sensible people that are looking at this in an objective way, when you hear people speak on these things about RFK and they try to call him a loony, understand where it's coming from. These are the same people that say that if Trump wins an election, you're going to be thrown in shackles. Stop allowing people to play you. Stop allowing people to just say these outlandish, crazy things, to throw that out there like, oh, if you don't vote for Kamala, who was literally putting people in shackles. Kamala, who was literally hiding evidence that would have freed people, who was literally keeping people in shackles. She's not going to put black people in shackles. But Trump is going to have you in shackles. You see how it doesn't really make much sense? Not the prosecutor that was hiding evidence. that would have freed people. I think some on death row. Not that person, but the person that was already president, that actually improved a lot of the things, whether we liked it or not. So the president that actually was the first president, Barack Obama, could have done this. The HBCUs were failing. Trump actually created a long-term plan. Trump actually created a board that was designed that even had the likes of Al Sharpton on it. He created a board to do research and identify certain programs or to identify certain spaces, why there was such a discrepancy between the development of blacks in America and whites in America, to actually dive into those things and to put plans together. Trump created that. But then that's the person that's going to put you in shackles. This is what happens. Vote for who you want to vote for, but do not get caught up in the propaganda and the craziness that people say that is just so outlandish. All it's designed to do is to make you scared, to make you hate something in order to appease a certain group of people. All right? Let people give you the information. And why don't journalists trust our intelligence enough to just give us the information without bias, without objectivity, without trying to ram something down our throat, and give us the ability to process it and make a decision? Isn't that how a democracy should work? Let's keep going. And then Danny wrote, well, we won't highlight this too much, but Danny wrote, ha, ha, ha. I really feel sorry for you, dude. You can speak all you want. You're not going to twist what I know. So this is what Danny knows. Danny, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you being here because honestly, you just enhanced the conversation. Thank you. It's appreciated. All right, so let's keep going. Let's keep going for a little bit with this, and then we're gonna move on to 2025.
Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a very direct question.
Define the. Go ahead.
Ticket as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a very direct question.
Define it for me if you
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that she is... I think
somebody should look into that, too, when you ask, continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question.
Mic drop. People can feel how they want to feel. People can feel how they want to feel. And you know what's so funny? So I was doing a little bit of thinking about this particular part, and I wasn't even going to play this. People are wondering whether or not Kamala is being called a DEI candidate. How soon we forget. Do we forget that when Joe Biden was running against Trump, one of the things that black pundits, whether it was Charlemagne, whether it was Joy Reid, they were literally saying that they will only vote for him if he brings on not only a black vice president, but a black woman vice president. Not only a woman, but a black woman. So when you pressure people, when you pressure a candidate and say, I'm only voting for you if you bring on a black woman, not saying that I'm only voting for you if you bring on the best candidate with the best policies that's going to help, me and my people. Not saying that. But when you force somebody to just bring somebody on board based on the top criteria, the top prioritizing them being a woman and being black, is that not, like, how else could that be considered to be a hire outside of a DEI hire? So let me share this with y'all, because a lot of people may forget. A lot of people may forget. Let's look back at this. When was this? This was 4 years ago. This was 4 years ago and about 20 wigs ago for Joy. Let's take a look at it. I don't like Joy. I shouldn't have said that. I take that back. All right.
basis are very concerned that, black women in particular have been the heartbeat of the Democratic Party for a long time, really shored you up in places like South Carolina. Are you committed to naming a black woman as your vice presidential running mate?
Can you believe that that question would even be asked on a news station? Are you committed to bringing on a black woman? Joe Biden, see the difference between Joe Biden, this is the difference between I'm noticing with Democrats and Republicans. See, Democrats and Republicans, and hear me out, I was actually going to talk about this on Friday. Democrats like Joe Biden, I've never seen this. I just looked it up right now. If I saw it, then maybe it was years ago. I don't recall ever seeing this. He's going to tell you something that feels good when he's talking to you. So he's talking to black people. He's going to tell me something that makes me feel good, not the truth. Trump just spoke the truth on the videos that I just saw, at least from my perspective. You can take it however you want to take it. Joe Biden's getting ready to tell you what feels good. And y'all remember that 80-20 rule when it comes to relationships? The 80-20 rule, where it's like in most marriages, this is like the whole Tyler Perry thing. Maybe I should bring up a video that describes it. On the next show, I'll bring up a video maybe. The 80-20, in most relationships, you're only going to get 80% of what you feel you want and or need, right? 80%. Now, when you're getting that 80% and you have that 80% in a woman, right? She's giving you, you're going to get a max of 80. It is what it is. That's the 80-20 rule. I'm not saying this is my philosophy. I'm just talking about the rule. When you have that 80% and you see another woman that may be presenting that other 20% that you're looking for, where it's like, I get everything that I need from my wife and, but this other woman, she brings a little sexual flair or something. She maybe bring adventurous, whatever it may be, whatever your 20% is, that woman presents that 20%. Now, when you have the 80 and you feel like that 80 isn't going anywhere, it makes that other 20% look very attractive. It's almost like the grass is greener on the other side. You start to look at your grass and not appreciate it, but the grass on the other side looks really good. So then when you start to venture over to that 20%, you don't realize that you're putting the 80% at risk. So how does this relate to Democrats and Republicans? I see Republicans, a lot of their policies, when I talk to quote unquote moderate Democrats and I ask them like, how do you feel about these, LGBTQ transgender issues? How do you feel about education? How do you feel about the economy? How do you feel about inflation? How do you feel about, we go through, how do you feel about policing? How do you feel about all these different things? And they come away with the fact that I would say about 80% or more of the principles that they align with are conservative. But there's a 20% out there where the grass looks greener on the other side, where the Democrats are promising this utopia world. It seems very attractive. And that's the candy. That's what ends up getting a lot of people to see things in a different way, rather than to understand like, oh, shoot, I actually am a conservative when it just comes to policies and principles. Let's keep going. Maybe I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent. Maybe y'all kind of understood where I was going, but I'm going to stop it there. Let's just get to the video because I want to remind y'all, when you ask Donald Trump whether or not Kamala is a DEI president, and then you're interviewing the president, and the criteria that Joy Reid is bringing up as far as who he's going to bring on as a vice president candidate, as his vice president running mate, she just says, are you committed to hiring a black woman or bringing on a black woman? Not are you committed to bringing on somebody that's going to improve this area or put together these type of policies? You're pushing him to, this is like worse than a DEI hire. This is worse than a DEI hire.
Very concerned that, black women in particular have been the heartbeat of the Democratic Party for a long time, really shored you up in places like South Carolina. Are you committed to naming a black woman as your vice presidential running mate?
I am not committed to naming any but the people I've named, and among them there are 4 black women. So that decision is underway right now. And
I am not committed to naming anybody except for the people that I named, and the people that I named are 4 black women. Bro, if he ain't pimping with the pastor talk, I don't know what he just did. I don't even know if Joy Reid understands.
For a long time, really shored you up in places like South Carolina. Are you committed to naming a black woman as your vice presidential running mate?
I am not committed to naming any but the people I've named, and among them there are 4 black women. So that decision is underway right now. And by the way, black women have supported me my entire career. You all act like all of a sudden there was an epiphany in South Carolina. I have had over a 96%, 94% rating in the state with the 8th largest black community in the United States of America, Delaware. And so they're the ones, as that old saying goes, that brought me to the dance. I have been loyal. They have been loyal to me. And so it is important that my administration, I promise you, will look like America, both as from vice president to.
All right. We can move on from that. All right. Let's, I just thought that was funny. When and there was another video, and I'm mad that I can't find it, but Charlemagne pretty much saying like, hey, the only way that we voting for you is if you bring on a vice president who's a black woman. So that is what it is. We're going to move on to the meat of this conversation. We're going to talk about the 2025 project, Project 2025. I'm going to share the screen with y'all. I am going to share the screen with y'all because I want y'all to take this journey with me. Let me see if I can get it from the beginning. All right, so I have the highlighted notes in my phone. My dad corrected me. Among them were 4 black women. I'm not sure if you guys heard it. I said among when I was going through it. So let's actually look through. Let's actually look through this, and y'all tell me which language you appreciate. Maybe this is, all these things come to mind. The things that you are receptive to, the type of language that you're receptive to says a lot about you. If you can only be coached by, if you like being coached by somebody that makes you feel good and does all these things, then that says one thing about you. But I want a coach that's going to give me the honest, straightforward truth. Don't gas me up. Don't try to make me feel good. Tell me what it is. If I was Joe Biden, my response would have been saying, I'm not prioritizing anybody because of anything other than what they can bring to this race when it comes to policy and improving the status of our country. Do not ask me, when you ask me a question about whether am I committed to bringing on a black woman as a candidate, that's offensive to not only black women, but to all, it's offensive to the rest of the candidates. It's offensive to everybody. But you feel that because you've been gaslit by your MSNBC platform, that you feel super comfortable in asking the president of the United States if you're committed to bringing on a vice president that's a black woman. Because of you spoke to your friends, Joy Reid. Like your friends represent the entire community. All right, let's get into this Project 2025. All right.